Hey, this is Jason Morris with Real Estate Agents That Really Work, and I got Adam Blacketter on the phone. And Adam, I tell you what, you want to tell a little bit about yourself? You're from upstate Indiana?
Absolutely. Yep, from northern Indiana, the South Bend market, near northwest Indiana, kind of considered the greater Chicagoland area, but really South Bend is its own market. So basically, been in the business just over a year now. For this, I was a employee with the Postal Service. I delivered mail, and I actually was a supervisor with the Postal Service, and I've had some sales jobs in the past, furniture, financing, and car sales. But that's kind of my background.
So you just finished your first full year in the real estate business.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. So what was being that you're a new agent? What was your kind of breakthrough moment in the real estate business? When did you go, hey, because you've done a fair amount of business. I want to get to that in a second. But what was the big breakthrough thing? What was the thing that surprised you the most?
Yeah, so great question. When I first started, I started with a different company than I'm at now, and I was on a team, and it was really great because I was on a team with an agent who performed at a pretty high level, does about 80 deals a year, and there was just a few of us on the team, but in general, I was fortunate because I was able to see the day-to-day of a top producer. So I think coming in on that team really set me up for what I guess kind of programmed me for what I thought was normal. So from the start, I thought, 5-6 closings a month was normal. And I think that is super important. I see a lot of people come in and they kind of are on their own, and that's okay too, if you have mentorship. But for me, a couple months in, and I realized, this isn't normal. This is actually a top producer, and I did not know that. When I started on that team, I just thought it was just another agent. I didn't really know much about the business, and I came to learn that he was like one of the top 10 agents in our MLS, and I thought, holy cow, I didn't even know, that I was working with a top agent. But anyhow, I think just right from the start, when I realized I was working with a top agent, I was able to soak in a lot of that knowledge and really see how he's built his business, which is almost entirely by referral now. That
so he doesn't get on the phone and prospect.
Exactly. So, really that goes off into a whole other direction, and that's really when I started to kind of investigate on my own. I am not getting referrals, being brand new.
Of course.
Matter of fact, I think I only sold one house by referral in my first year, and but anyhow, I realized what was working for him, wasn't going to work for me. He had 10 years in the business, and he'd been doing the referral system for basically the whole time, and it takes time. And he finally got to that point a few years ago. He was explaining it to me where like 75% of his business was all referral. And, so what happened is I actually left that team and left that company about 4 or 5 months in the business and came over to another company on my own and really dived pretty deep into Mike Ferry, just the systems and everything I could get for free on his website. Yeah. And then, came across a Fearless Agent and signed up with them and did that training now for, going on about 7 months, 7 months. And really that's, really when I dove into Mike Ferry online and looked at all his systems, that's really when I decided, okay, this is what I need to do. This is duplicatable.
Let's get a structure to your day. I was a Mike Ferry agent for a long time, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, before, when you see somebody working by referral, all I really saw was the guy would come and go to appointments and, negotiate deals. And his phone, if it did ring, it was usually about a deal, and more power to him. He put a lot of work into that referral business to get it to that point. But for me, it wasn't, going to pay the bills being brand new. So yeah.
And
then
I came across a lot of agents are like that.
How's that?
Oh, what was that? Well, a lot of agents are like that. Like even me, I'm 13, 14 years in the business, but my referral business, I got a handful of people that refer me stuff consistently, but at the same time, it doesn't really make up a large part of my business. I couldn't live just off my referrals, Things would have to change. I got stuff that wouldn't get paid, if I was living off my referral business. And a lot of it's because my market's a secondary market. People are moving from out of town, or they're either moving in or moving out, it seems like. So lots of my clients, I sell their house, they go back to wherever they come from or move on somewhere else, and I never see of those people again. And they didn't like you can really keep their mailing address on file to send them a postcard, or a Christmas letter, card. So, that referral business is great, and sphere of influence is great if you got it, but it's not for new agents. They just don't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes years to build it.
Found that out, pretty quick.
So what are you doing today? Because you've got an interesting. I don't want to say it's a problem because it's not. It's amazing you're doing what you're doing. You've got an interesting life scenario. I want you to tell everybody, like, what do you have going on? I want you to tell them. I don't want to tell them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it, anything too abnormal. So I am married. My wife, she actually works at a hospital. She is a licensed respiratory therapist, and she actually works very long hours. So pretty much she goes to work at typically between anywhere from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m., and I don't see her again until 11:30 at night on the days that she does work. So basically I'm Mr. Mom, I guess you could call it, and obviously I'm the one in real estate, right? So I'm the one who has the freedom. So and that's fine. I enjoy it most of the time. I take the kids to school in the morning. Of course, they go to two different schools, nowhere near each other. My daughter goes to a charter school, and my son, he goes to a completely different school, 2 different times, right? So then I've got to, pick my kids up in the afternoons. And, well, my office is actually 35 minutes from my house and from where my kids go to school. So I've really got to structure my day with purpose, because it's very easy for me to just kind of lose 4 or 5 hours, and really that's all I have a day. So between, I would say, 4 to 6 hours a day, that's by the time I commute to the office and then have to get back and get the kids, and in between, taking them and getting them, I've got to be.
Your day gets cut short.
Exactly. So I've got to do everything that. Yeah. Go ahead.
So on an average day, like how much time between picking up the kids and managing, managing being an at-home dad or Mr. Mom, how much time do you really have on an average day to work in the real estate business?
Being honest, I really only work probably 3 to 5 hours a day, and then I don't work every day because I do allocate 1 full day a week to my wife, and her and I, we basically have a date day, and we just, get back to basics, and something we've been working really hard at this year, and just taking that time out for each other, because she actually does work 4 days a week. So we actually have a full day where we can spend together every week. And then, we take a day with the kids, and we're pretty solid on at least getting 1 day with the kids and doing something fun every week. Every week we have a day for ourselves, for each other. And, that's pretty much how we've been doing it all year. And, it really works out great. Nobody gets left out. It's very important for your family when, in my case, my wife is gone. Really, she's gone 4 days a week, and she might as well be out of the country because nobody sees her. So
she's pretty much, when she's at home, she's asleep. That's a long day.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately,
so how do you?
Yeah, she does.
So you sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, unfortunate that we're able to have this freedom, with her working that much. you know, my income is almost secondary. Of course, that's a double-edged sword, but yeah, that's kind of our situation.
Well, with the 3 to 5 hours a day, you're working 3 to 5 hours a day. What do you like? How do you go on appointments, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, so great question. Actually, well, I mean, really, there's no rhyme or reason. You know, I watch these Mike Ferry interviews, and even the Fearless Agent interviews that Colton Lindsay does. And the thing is, I notice, you know, most people have a pretty good system. You know, they'll prospect in the morning, admin maybe in the middle of the day, lunch, and appointments in the afternoon or evening. And I tried that for a while, you know, but being new, I wasn't, you know, comfortable turning away business because I couldn't accommodate the seller's time frame or schedule. So, for instance, this last week I went on a listing appointment. I think it was Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I mean, most agents that are systematized and they're in these prospecting, you know, systems with these coaches, you know, they try not to even work weekends. But, you know, I like to do appointments at 4 and then make arrangements for my kids if I can, have someone pick them up from school. But in this case, it was on a weekend, and I don't mind, you know, doing an appointment on a Saturday. Honestly, I kind of prefer it just because the client, the prospect is usually more comfortable. You know, they're not stressed out about their work day, and I find that I have better connection with the clients when it's, you know, when they're more comfortable. So
when you tell a client, hey, I can't meet you today, it's got to be Saturday, what do they, how do they respond to that?
Yeah, you know, honestly, it's usually the client that doesn't want to meet during the week, at least where I'm at, you know. And it kind of works out, especially this time of year, because, I mean, let's say they work 8 to 4. I mean, where I'm at in northern Indiana, it's pretty much dark by 5, and sometimes a little earlier. So let's say I do actually go over there. You know, I'm not really going to be able to see the house very good on the exterior.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to really. Yeah, exactly. I can't take pictures really if I do get it all signed in one appointment. And so, you know, I kind of like doing it all during the day if I can, just because, you know, for those reasons, really.
Man, so working on, and you're actually taking listings, because I know me and we've been talking, and you're doing really well with for sale by owners right now, aren't you?
Yeah, so pretty much predominantly all my listings earlier in the year were for sale by owner, and you know, it's funny, I signed up with BreadX, and I signed up for sale by owner and expired leads. And I think I told you this a few months ago. I just had so many for sale by owner leads that, and like I said, with my schedule, I mean, I was only prospecting like 1 to 2 hours a week at that time. Excuse me. And I didn't even get to my expires. Like, I didn't even look through them. I had like, I don't know, 300. And I had like 600 FSBOs from like I signed up like back in March, and I let them sit there for like 3 months before I really started prospecting. So by the time I really got to them, I mean, I had so many, and I just started, you know, plugging away at them. I didn't have a dialer when I first started. I didn't have Storm Dialer. I do now, but when I first started, I just hand dialed. I'd probably call about 10 to 20 FSBOs a day. And like I said, I was only calling like once or twice a week. So I was probably really talking to about, I would say 40 to 50 FSBOs I would actually talk to a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just came pretty easily, to be honest with you. What I noticed was, you know, just be friendly on the phone, you know, really try to determine their motivation. Are they really a seller? You know, a lot of them, as you know, they just say, well, I'm testing the market, you know, things like that. But I really didn't really mind. I mean, I had so many of them in the, you know, in my vortex. I had hundreds. Yeah, exactly. Go to the next one, you know. And yeah, so my first, I'd say my first 6 months, only listings I got were FSBOs. And by the time I started on expireds, I really had no interest in it. I mean, I had the FSBOs down pretty decent, you know, to where I could feel pretty confident to get a listing. And And only recently I started calling expireds about a month ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, expireds are a little different, man. And, of course, I'm still pretty new to this, but I really think FSBOs are easier. And I don't know if that's just my personality or what.
That's I am too, man. That's my, that's the top thing on my list. That's the first people I call every morning. You know, when I open up Red X, I usually call 20, 30 for sale owners, and you know, before I start expireds or Z-buyer or anything. And so how many, you know, prospecting that 2 or 3 hours a week, how many listings a month were you getting?
I'm averaging like 2 to 3 listings a month, and I mean that's very part time, as like we were talking about. And the thing
pretty
about
solid.
it,
I mean, 3 listings a month, and you're prospecting would you say, you were talking about 2 or 3 hours a week, so you're prospecting like 10 hours a month total?
Yeah, and you know, even that might be high. I'm actually ramping it up now, but I think I was really prospecting about 8 hours a month up until this last month in December. December I kicked it up a little bit, but before that, you know, I really think 8 hours a month is all I was doing.
Wow,
so
about 3 hours to get one listing, and what's your average commission check look like there?
Yeah, so this is going to sound crazy to people across the country, but last year, so 2016, it was about $2,000 GCI average.
About $2,000.
Yeah,
gee, that's still pretty awesome, man. That's like $600 an hour for prospecting, you know?
Right. Yeah, and
making calls. I mean, you know,
when you think about it that way, you know, you do think differently. Once you realize, you know, how much you're making on the phone, even when you get hung up on, you know, it's like, hey, no problem. I'm making, you know, X amount an hour. It's no problem at all. You know,
man, we're in such a great industry. You know, I tell people, like, you can be in the Baseball Hall of Fame if you hit. If you hit 3 out of 10, you could probably be in the Hall of Fame. If you hit 4 out of 10, you're like an amazing superstar, right? In real estate, you can get like 1 out of 10 on these for sale owners and make a great living. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, so that I quickly realized, and it wasn't until people started telling me. I have a trainer in my office, and he's been a huge help with me, and you know, one of the reasons I came here to this company I'm at, Berkshire Hathaway, and you know, one day he told me, he goes, you know, you found your niche, and I said, well, you know, what do you mean, you know? And he said, for so long, that's your niche, and I said, well, I hadn't thought about it like that. It's from what I am used to, which is watching, you know, your videos and Fearless Vision and Mark Ferry. I mean, I'm not doing hardly anything. You know what I mean? So you see these people doing 100 a year, and it's like, well, I've got a long way to go, but it's inspiring at the same time. So it wasn't until I was told that was my niche by somebody looking from the outside in before I realized, oh, okay, I guess it is my niche.
Man, it's a great niche, and it's great talent to have. And it sounds like, I mean, you're in a great market that doesn't really have tremendous competition.
Yeah, so we've got about 500 agents in our MLS for my county, and of those, you know, it's pretty typical. I was actually looking at the roster the other day, and it's almost right on. You know, the top 20%. In our case, the top 25% of the agents did, you know, 80% of the business, just like the, you know, the 80-20 rule, you know. So, but anyhow, you know, it's not a super big, you know, metropolis or anything like that. We've got about 200,000 full-time residents in our area here, and you know, I think there's plenty of business to go around for 500 agents, you know. So.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome market. So these agents that are out here, there's a lot of new agents, especially. You know, they have kids. Their time's limited on making calls and stuff. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, so you know, the first thing I would say is you've got to really manage the time that you do have. And I can't tell you how many days I just, you know, I had a good intention. You know, I'd go down to the computer you know, in my home office. On some days I would work from home, and, well, you know, I would call it work from home, right? But, you know, I hardly ever did anything. You know, I realized when I'm working from home, I get distracted more. So I would just say you have to have a clear plan of action, and manage that time. You have to protect your time. And that means, no playing around on the internet. That means no inbound phone calls, while you're supposed to be lead generating. And it's all in your head. You do have the time. If anything, I'm telling you, if I can do it up 2 hours a week, and get listings, do you have 2 hours a week? And I think most people do have 2 hours, And what I would say this, I don't think it matters what time you call too. I've called in the morning. I've called prospects in the afternoon. I've called at night. I actually love calling between 5 and 8 at night. Really 6 to 8, but I'll start at 5 a lot of times. But the thing about it is people, they're like, well, I know I'm supposed to call in the morning. And then they won't even call. Let's say they're busy in the morning. Well, surely you had 2 hours or an hour sometime that day, later that day.
Yeah.
So, I got it out of my head that I had to call at a certain time. And I just said, look, I just got to call. I don't care if it's 8 o'clock at night, I got to call. So I just blocked it out 1 hour a day at least on days that I would prospect. And I just, make sure I hit my 1 hour a day on at least 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah, it takes some discipline to do that. I know for me, and this is the reason I do it in the morning. It's just because I got to get started before other things sidetrack me in my day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's so easy.
You got a ton of stuff going on.
It's so easy for stuff, Yeah, you have other stuff. You have other agents. You got showings. You got a contract. Next thing you know, it's 12 o'clock, and you haven't made the first phone call yet. I don't get started before other things start. And I have to be very cautious about. I have to be very protective over my time too. And that's one thing, man. Storm Dialer and really helped me with that because I could log in, I could dial into Storm Dialer, and I could sit there and I could play around on Facebook, look through emails and stuff, and it's just dialing away. I just got to be ready when somebody says hello, and that's the only thing. But that's one thing that really helped me, and it helped me stay. Prospect the time that I'd actually scheduled.
I would agree with that too, and I think you're right. You hit the nail right on the head. That dialer, when it takes out a lot of the call reluctance a lot of us feel. Not to say I don't still have it, but when I hit start on that dialer, and then you look up, and I think you mentioned this, in one of your videos. You noticed you already called 10 or 15 people. You're already in the game at that point. It just kind of takes the reluctance out of it.
That's something too. I don't know if you've noticed this, but for me, I really focused hard in that under 150 price range in my market. And sometimes, I'd get those leads, those for sale owners or expireds that, be 250, 300 plus. And I'd be a little more reluctant to call them because, somehow or another in my mind, all of us have problems, even me. And I've got in my mind that, $300,000-$400,000 houses don't really sell, in my market.
Mm-hmm.
And so lots of times I would skip them. But the dialer just forces me to dial it. I've kind of, the average price point of my listings has probably skyrocketed in the last 3 or 4 months just because I've been diligently using a dialer on everything, Yeah,
I agree with that too. And I felt the same way. I had a lot of, I guess I don't want to say mental blockage, but I would say, I was nervous to call luxury listings. And in my market, I think it's probably similar to your market. Really anything over 300 here is a luxury listing. You can pretty much get a mansion in northern Indiana for $400,000 or $500. But before I got the dialer, I just wouldn't even dial those numbers. I'd be so nervous about calling. I don't fit in with these people. I have a $140,000 house. I don't feel comfortable calling a $500,000 prospect. But like you said, when I got the dialer, to be 100% with you, I do not even look at the prospects anymore. And I've realized it's really helped me. I don't look at it until somebody answers. I don't look at it. And I treat everybody the same. And I think
I'm usually doing something else.
Yeah,
a lot of times I got YouTube playing in the background. I got Facebook on my phone. I don't look at it until somebody says hello.
Right. And I think that's important, and I think that helps too. I don't think it gives you a chance to get anxious or nervous about the prospect or or the price range or anything like that.
Yep. That first call is always the hardest one. No.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And everybody has call reluctance, man. It never, I don't think it really ever goes away. I mean, and there's never a morning hardly that, everybody wakes up and goes, man, I'm excited as hell to dial numbers today. Nobody ever does that, I don't think,
No, absolutely. I'd have to agree. I mean, there are people, I know that you and I both know that will sit there and dial 1,000 numbers a day, or crazy numbers like that. But I agree. I think even for them, just that first call is always the hardest. 2 or 3 hours into it, I don't think there's really any anxiety. I think it all goes away pretty early on in your calling.
Usually after that first answer, that first answer for me, first call, even if they hang up on me or tell me I'm stupid or whatever it is, After
you mean
that first
happens?
Call, it happens to me sometimes, every now and then. But generally, 99% of the people are really nice.
Yeah. I would say I agree with that 100%. But for some reason, man, today I got hung up. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I started cold calling a neighborhood. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's a neighborhood that's higher than I usually will prospect in price range.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, I just cold called for, I think, 30 minutes. 30 minutes before our call today. I made 60 dials, so I called 60 houses. I spoke with 11 people in 30 minutes, and I left 6 voice messages. Well, out of the 11 contacts I made, I think I got hung up on 8 times. And, I mean, it's like, some days you'll just have a ton of them, and then other days, like you said, like 99% of everybody's super nice. But today was just one of those days where I just had a ton of hang-ups, and I thought, well, it's not really a big deal. I am calling a higher price range neighborhood, and I guess maybe that just comes with that territory. But, I'll keep pushing forward, and 60 calls is really nothing. I'm really shooting to get 20 to 30 contacts today, so I've got another 19 to go. Well, 10 to 19 to go to get 30, 10 to go to get 20, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I got a couple other questions to ask you, and we'll wrap it up. And man, so like when you call in the afternoon, you're home there by yourself with the kids. How do you manage that? You got 2 kids at home. How old are your kids?
Yeah, so my kids are 13 and 10, and they are loud. Yeah. And the only way to answer that is I try to call when they're not home. So, a lot of times they're at a friend's house or at grandma's house and things like that. And I have to, and this goes back to what I was saying, you've got to protect your time. If that's the only time you've got to, if you're going to work today, that might be it. You might only have 2 hours, when nobody's home or whatever it may be, but you can't blow that 2 hours. You've got to use it. So, for instance, tonight, my son is staying at grandma's house, right? Because it's a weekend. So he's excited about that. And my daughter is going to a friend's house. So once I card everybody where they need to go this afternoon, then I'll have the evening to myself, and I'll get my other 20 or 30 contacts in.
You just got to make sure you're productive.
See, that's the thing. So when you just got to, it's discipline, man. It's hard because you can do 100 other things, but are any of those things going to bring me a listing, so.
Dude, it's so easy, man, to sit down there on the couch and watch like half a season of, some show on Netflix.
Yeah, what were you telling me? You watched like a whole season one day or something.
Oh man, Ballers. I don't know if you've ever seen Ballers, but Ballers is it's like the football version of Entourage. It's got The Rock in it. And I love this show, man. They talk about tons of money and they buy really nice cars and stuff like that. And it's fantastic.
So did you get your process done that day or no?
Yeah, man, I'm diligent. After doing it for so long, I actually feel guilty if I don't prospect.
Yeah,
like if I miss time, I feel guilty. I feel guilty about it. And what I've learned though is as long as I consistently prospect, I consistently get paychecks. Mm-hmm. And if I miss prospecting for a couple of weeks, and it's hard for me to get back on the phone. And as long as you do it like consistently, you get really good at overcoming objections. You get really good at answering questions because you're gonna get the same. If you're using the same script, you're gonna get the same questions and the same objections over and over again. And
Right.
And two, like the thing I hate the most is, for me, follow up is the big thing. I think that's the key to a lot of this. A lot of the being successful. It isn't. The initial call is important, but the follow-up call with those people that you had meaningful conversations with, I think that's the most important thing. And what, man, drives me crazy is like, hey, I went on vacation for a week, and then that vacation lasted 3 weeks, you know? And I'm guilty
Yeah.
of doing that, you know, like going on vacation for a week, and then, man, yeah, it throws off my phone schedule, and the next week I'm playing like catch up with everything else in life. And I forget the most important thing. The most important thing is filling my funnel with brand new leads, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I forget to follow up, too. So next thing I know, I'm following up, and I'm following up 3 weeks later than what I should have. And I'm talking to people that have already listed their house with somebody else.
Worst.
And that could have been my listing, you know what I mean?
Right.
That could have been
Right.
my listing, but instead I watched a season of Ballers, you know? And
Right.
that season of Ballers cost me, you know, just say an average listing is $150,000. That season of Ballers cost me $4,500. You know, was it really that good? You know,
Right.
you have to ask yourself. You have to have that like mental conversation with yourself sometimes to realize
Sure.
that you know, that like, hey, you know, instead of watching, you know, a season, watch an episode. You know, or, you know, make sure that you're doing it after your prospecting's done or after 8 o'clock at night or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of a book, The E-Myth. Have you read The E-Myth?
I have.
Yeah.
I have by Michael Gerber.
Yeah, you're the boss and CEO, and you're the laborer, and, you know, you're the technician or whatever he says in there. It's like when the technician is working, you know, the CEO or the manager has to, you know, get in here and get the thing. Not sure, but that's pretty much the idea from that chapter I was reading. And it's so true, man. So on those days when you want to sit and watch Ballers or whatever it is, you know, and for me, it's just almost anything under the sun. You know, I'm like a squirrel. I get distracted. Those days I've got myself that you can't tell the technician to get to work. Because it's hard when you're on your own, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just us and...
Yeah, man. I mean, well, man, I tell you, I think you're doing fantastic for the limited amount of time you have to work in the real estate business and own your business. And this is something, too, like I tell people all the time, God, you can do that. Like what you're doing, you can do it with sellers, but there's no way that you could be working as hard with buyers, you know?
Oh, yeah. See, I did the buyer thing, and I don't want to say anything bad about buyers. I love buyers. Obviously, they buy my listings. But, you know, when I first started on the team, when I was new, I was lucky enough to get pretty much hand-fed buyer leads. And, of course, I didn't really know at the time, you know, much about if I should be working sellers or buyers. Or at that time, I didn't know even how to find a seller. So I just buyers for a few months. Definitely a learning experience, and when I saw how hard I had to work or how many hours I had to put in with a buyer versus, you know, my first couple listings, how little time I had to put in to get the listing and then to have another agent sell it for me. That was one of those big shifts, I think, that you were asking about. You know, when I realized how much more I could get done with a seller versus a buyer, and how much more my time was worth to me. That was just huge. So, yeah, you can do a ton of business. I know buyers agents here in my market. They do 50, 60, 80 buyer transactions a year, but they work 9 days a week. I mean, they're always working. They're pulling their hair out, and they're at the bar, you know, drinking themselves to death every night, you know. So that's not what I want. So, yeah, listings is pretty much all I focus on. I refer all my buyers out.
Yeah, that's what I do with most of mine too, and you know, it makes my life so much easier. But I like that you can list a house, and that house can be getting shown while you're, you know, taking the kids to school or picking them up or whatever you got to do that day.
Exactly.
It's so easy to leverage your time. Man,
Yeah, you can
well,
do how
I'll tell you
many
what.
stuff. Yeah, go ahead. We can go a whole other hour on that topic.
Oh yeah, gosh, and you know what? I think that like there's a lot of cool stuff that you share that you're doing with your kids and where you're using your time. Is there any other advice you want to give some parents out there that are in your same position?
Just it's true what they say. Time flies. Your kids are going to be growing up so fast, and just make sure it's not a whole day. Give them at least a set evening or something every week where you spend time with your kids and your family. And trust me, I mean, it's going to be gone quick. They're going to be 15, 16. They're not going to want to hang out with you, and you need to cherish that time now. So that's my only advice for that.
That's cool, man. Hey, well, if somebody listening to this, they have a referral, they want to make the South Bend, how can somebody get in touch with you? Do you have a website or anything?
Yeah, so you can hit me up just on my email, or I'm on Facebook, Adam Blacketter. My email is adamsellsmichiana, MICHIANA, @gmail.com.
Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you doing this, and we'll stop right here. If you guys like this interview, subscribe to my YouTube channel, join my Facebook group. Adam's a part of it, and he's pretty active in it. Go in there and ask Adam some questions, and I really appreciate it, man. Have a great day. I'm gonna stop there.
Hey, thanks. You too.